Welcome to Tuesdays with Tom, a Procurious podcast series featuring exclusive insights from Tom Derry, CEO of the Institute for Supply Management. The topic of today's podcast is talent magnets. Procurious founder Tanya Siri will discuss with Tom his top tips for aspirational early career professionals, how high-profile leaders can become talent magnets in supply management, and finally, the latest data on procurement and supply management salaries. Over to you, Tom and Tanya.
Tom, one of the things that brought our two organisations together 4 or 5 years ago, I think, was our shared passion for developing the procurement and supply chain profession. And I think when ISM first teamed with Procurious, we were very interested in what was happening with Generation Next in particular. So today I really would like to explore, your views on the next generation of talent, but also how, employers can attract the very best talent in the profession. So we're going to dive straight into it. Tom, I'm putting you on the spot. What are your 3 tips for early career professionals who aspire to one day become a CPO or a head of supply chain within a leading organisation?
Well, I think that it's pretty easy to point out a couple of critical success factors for people who have risen to the very top of the profession, and one of the most important is aligning yourself with the best talent. So if you're getting into the field or you're early in the field, discover who's got the best reputation, and that happens in 2 dimensions. Who's the best leader? Who's regarded as being leading edge, running a great organization, and frankly, look at the company's reputation too, because it's clear that certain companies have created an awful lot of talent in our profession, disproportionately more talent than other companies. So you want to get there. So find those great leaders at those great companies, and that's going to be a launching pad for you. Then be courageous. There are a lot of metrics of dubious value that we often sort of pay attention to in the profession that I think about outlive their usefulness. Try to link what you're doing day to day with what's driving value for your firm, whether it's bringing new products online, it is introducing new features to new products, it's driving top-line revenue growth, you're increasing earnings per share by reducing cost. Speak in the language of the business and link explicitly what you're doing to driving those kinds of outcomes. That will gain respect, because that's how we keep score in business, and those are the measures that matter the most. And you have to realize, and this is my 3rd point, business is about competition. It's about competition between firms, but frankly, it's also about competition within the firm to gain resources, to have access to talent, and to win the opportunities for promotion and advancement. So understand that you are competing. You are being regarded by your superiors in the firm in terms of your output, your productivity, and understand that you are in a competition for advancement. Maybe it's advancement within the firm, maybe it's advancement in another firm. But you have to recognize that and know that you put your game face on every day and go to work, and as they say in sport, leave everything on the field, because at the end of the day, someone may outcompete you if you're not taking that approach.
I love that. Leave nothing in the tank. I don't know if that's sort of a parochial saying from my part of the world, but absolutely, it is highly competitive. And as we know, as we move into Industry 4.0, CPOs and heads of supply chain are going to be needing that next level of talent. And, they'll be looking beyond the traditional talent pools. And, we look at some of the recent surveys from Deloitte, etc. Half of the leaders don't think their teams have the sufficient capabilities. So it is going to be a dog-eat-dog kind of world, and hopefully a lot of our listeners will find that a motivation. So maybe if we look from the employer's perspective rather than the employees, if you are a high-profile leader who's struggling to attract the next level of talent, how do you become a talent magnet, if you like?
Yeah, that is a critical skill. I mean, at the end of the day, talent will out in procurement, and procurement is changing so rapidly, and the key factor there is the level of technology that we'll be using in procurement going forward. So I've got to attract people who are comfortable with using machine learning, who are comfortable using robotics process automation, and have an advanced level of analytical skills. That's going to be critical to running my procurement team in the future. But it creates the opportunity to tell this incredibly appealing, engaging story about the kind of work you'll be doing if you come to work in my procurement organization. You'll be making decisions that are frequently multi-million-dollar decisions. You'll be using the most advanced technologies and analytics available in the company. You'll be talking to the heads of the supplier firms. How many times does a 24-year-old accountant get a chance to talk to the CEO of another company? It doesn't happen, right? But it happens in procurement. So that boils down to being able to tell the story effectively of how impactful procurement is. And I don't think we have enough great storytellers as leaders in the profession today. The best ones, they disproportionately get that great talent.
That's right. And I mean, it is so much about communication and those soft skills, because we're going to have all this technology helping us. So our core differentiator is going to be that ability to influence and bring that sort of highly integrated network of commercial relationships together. So, I think that's really important. And I also think having a high profile on social media, I know it's a bit of a passion of mine, but a lot of CPOs are still afraid to have themselves out there on social media. And let's face it, the next generation of talent is online. They choose, to your point, their next boss and their next company over their online profile. So you have to be drinking from the same water cooler, if you like, as your next level of talent. And I think you guys have done a great job in getting out there and really promoting the profession online. And we've certainly enjoyed partnering with you on that.
Well, thanks. We definitely make an effort to do it because, as you understand, Tanya, for my children who are between 21 and 28 years old, if it doesn't exist in the world of their smartphone, it doesn't exist at all. How are we going to reach them if we're not communicating where they consume all their information? So,
exactly.
and within 2 years, I think that a majority of the workforce will be 35 or under. So this is the world where we have to operate. So social media is actually something that you can't avoid if you're going to be seen as an effective leader. You have to have a presence there. If you don't have a presence, that looks like you're avoiding something, right? It's interpreted in a negative kind of way. And it's such a powerful tool. Tell your company's story, tell your own story. We use employee advocacy even within ISM. When someone sees something that they're very proud of, they want to talk about our 30 under 30 winners at our annual conference, they go out on LinkedIn or Procurious or the other available platforms and talk about the recognition that's being earned and why it's so exciting for the future of the profession. You gotta be there to tell that story, or it's going to be missed, and someone else will fill that space.
Exactly, and I think, I love your point about competition, and if we look back to, when we're all studying business or learning about business, competitive advantage is about understanding what your competitors are doing. And if you're just focusing on your own business and not looking outside, it's very difficult to know where you sit in the landscape and what you need to be doing to outwit your competition. And that goes from an industry, company, and maybe even an individual perspective. I think to your other point too, it's an important part of change. I say that CPOs today are paid to drive global change. And we back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, it used to be the Friday email or newsletter and the town hall meetings. But social media gives leaders now a chance to, share and coerce and encourage their team around the clock and around the globe. So I think it's also a really important part of change management.
I couldn't agree more. And if you're managing a global team and every company is global nowadays, the only effective way to be in touch is through technology, right? And you have to know how to communicate with people of different cultures and different locations. And because they're in 24 different time zones, there's only one way to do that effectively. I don't see how you can be an effective leader and not have an active social media presence.
Well, should we talk about money? Everyone loves talking about money, don't they? Even though it's supposed to be very rude. Particularly salaries. I mean, obviously, we're used to delivering cost savings, and we know that all our members and listeners are worth their weight in gold. But, you release an annual pay survey, and I understand, continually you're finding great insights in the profession, particularly with the salary gender gap. Can you share with us some thoughts on salaries within the profession at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are really two interesting points that come out of our recent research. One is supply management as a professional discipline is actually earning salary increases at a greater rate than other disciplines, whether it's finance or HR or even operations. And I think that is clearly connected to the recognition of the strategic role that we're playing within our firms. If we're not running lean and running efficiently and reducing costs and driving margin expansion, then we're suffering as a company. And that's reflected in the higher rate of salary growth. The other thing that's really interesting, and I don't think it's widely known, but our research has confirmed this over 3 years, the average woman CPO actually earns more than the average male CPO. I think we may be the only profession with this. Isn't that great?
That is great news.
So, I mean, how attractive for women looking at this profession to know that if I go into procurement, I get a chance to earn every dollar that I'm worth, right? As opposed to what might be happening in other professions. I think that's incredible opportunity for young women out there.
Very inspiring. And, when we have role models like this year's 30 Under 30, Charlotte, and, also Christy Breves from US Steel being recognised this year, there's certainly a lot to inspire women for joining the profession and working their way up.
And looking to you as a role model, Tanya, too. Don't exclude yourself.
Oh, Tom, what a lovely way to end today's podcast. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and this has been fantastic. I really hope it inspires and helps our listeners, and I really look forward to our next discussion.
Thank you, Tanya. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to our Tuesdays with Tom podcast, powered by Procurious and ISM. Stay tuned for more podcasts in this series, which will be made available for streaming in the learning area on procurious.com.